Zen in the U.S. believes that they have an argument for the Christian worldview. Zen, you are on the line with Jimmy and Matt.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Just fine. Wow, such
Pretty good.
audio. Everybody call with Zen's audio from now on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I highly recommend it. It's just like my iPhone, like headphones or something. So.
Hell yeah. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
What do you got for us, Zen?
I'm glad you can hear me. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, I'm a Christian. I'm calling in because I believe that the argument for the Christian worldview, essentially, it could boil down to, even on your guys' view, like even if it's all totally false, like none of this is real, like God is just a fictional made up character in a book. It's like, all right, then I guess people's perceptions of reality, all of that ends up being, relative, subjective. You kind of, make your own purpose. Well, then whatever fantasy somebody makes up is equally as valid or invalid as anybody else's fantasy, and what it seems to me, and this is my argument for the Christian worldview, is that people that live as though Christianity is true tend to have better outcomes in society, even on the atheistic secularist view. So wouldn't it be better that people live and believe that the Christian God is real, even if he's not?
No.
So,
why not?
Do you want to go first or want me to go first? Go ahead.
let me try nutshell this. One of the things is that the various studies that we have that would suggest that people who live life as a practicing Christian have a better life, a number of those studies have flaws, not the least of which is that you're talking about people who, of course, you're going to benefit from having the most popular worldview. You're going to benefit from not being a marginalized minority. You're going to benefit from not being one of the groups of people who are oppressed at the hands of people who are advocating for a Christian worldview or similar like that. So that's one aspect of it that's problematic. But at the end of the day, all I care about is whether or not it's true. If it's not true, then that means whatever benefit people are getting from Christianity isn't coming from Christianity or the truth of the doctrines of Christianity, but from something else. And it seems that if we could find what that something else is, whether it is a system that prejudices things in favor of people of a certain religion, or, as I've said before, if prayer keeps you calm, that can extend your life. You might be able to do the same thing with meditation. You might be able to do the same thing just by knowing, hey, I'm better off in this situation being calm. It is, in my opinion, always in our best interest to investigate, to find out what the truth of the situation is, so that whatever is allowing people who are Christian to get a better life, if they in fact do get a better life, is something that we can find. Because if it turns out it's because Christianity is true, that would be worth knowing. And if it turns out it's because Christianity is false, but there's some secondary or tertiary causes there, that would also be worth knowing. I'd rather not live a lie just because it seems to be comforting and beneficial.
Yep. Yeah.
So
hang on, Zen.
Sorry, go ahead.
Before you jump in. Yeah, Matt already kind of touched on it. Just saying, as far as this, wouldn't it be better? You would have to change a lot for a person for it to quote unquote be better. And the nature of the outcomes that you're describing as better are different. But a person who, as Matt mentioned, comes from a marginalized community, you could just go out of religion and you could go with something like race. Should a person who is very much struggling and wants a better economic outcomes look at a place and go, that place has better economic outcomes without any regard for their own personal stake in life? Because if it's a person who is saying, I really want to move there because the outcomes are better. So say somebody who is saying, I want to move to Pakistan because that is a better economic climate than mine. And they aren't considering what their race or their religion or their thing is when they're going to make that move. That would be a terrible thing to disregard, because you can't just live comfortably in Pakistan as anybody, and you can't just live comfortably in Christianity as anybody else. But the question I have back for you is in regards to your claim of validity, that essentially the Christian worldview is as valid as, let's say, mine, which is, I want to promote skepticism. That's the thing that I want to share. I want to promote skepticism and humanism. So you would say it is as valid, the Christian worldview is as valid if there's no God, as promoting skepticism and humanism. What does the word valid mean to you in that scenario?
It's equally as worthy of being acknowledged, like just as a legitimate worldview to inform your beliefs upon.
What would make it a legitimate worldview is what I'm asking.
Just something that could inform your beliefs. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
So basically you're saying everything is as
And the way you
legitimate
live.
as itself, as each other, if you can just vocalize what your belief is. However, in my opinion, if you're going to start determining validity or legitimacy, you would sit there and go, we can't, like with the last caller, solve hard solipsism, or the problem of hard solipsism, but we can go with, let's just assume we do all exist, and that's the only presupposition we have to make because we have no other choice. So now we've gone there.
Right.
Hang on,
But
I'm not done. I'm not done.
Yeah.
My position of spreading humanism and skepticism, I can defend with material facts about reality. I can defend within the world that we all are here, and I don't have to make up anything magical or extra, and I don't have to do a trust me, bro. Does it mean everyone's going to become a humanist and a skeptic? Hang on. I'm almost done, I swear. No, but when you're talking about legitimacy and validity, those words mean something to me that a secular viewpoint that doesn't just create truths and tell you to live by them, but observes them and tries to make something consistent with that, does not equal the same level of validity and legitimacy as Christianity. And hence why I would advocate for one over the other is not just the difference, but one is better than the other.
Right. I'm willing to grant this notion that you don't have to make up the sky fairy, you don't have to make up anything, and that's fine. I'm willing to grant that for the sake of the argument, and to kind of address both of what you're saying is, like, I think Matt mentioned that we need to focus on what's true. We need to affirm what is true. We need to not go against, descriptively true things in reality. But I don't know that you'd be consistent on that. For example, if somebody said, like, held a weapon to your head and said, either affirm that 2 + 2 = 5 or I will unalive you, you're probably going to just say, fine, 2 + 2 = 5.
Of
Right,
course,
yeah, so
but
then-
that
so
has
then
nothing.
clearly,
That's
even though-
nothing. That is a momentary practical thing where the best thing you can do is this. That's not me pronouncing and believing and being convinced that it's true.
Well, what it illustrates, though, is that there are conditions, even on your view, where affirming the truth might not actually be the best outcome.
No, actually it's not, because you're using the word affirming in a way that I don't.
Finish?
No, you can't. The way you're using the word affirming,
Sorry, my mistake.
you're right. It was your mistake.
Yeah, it
The
is
way
your
you are
mistake.
using the word affirming, to say out loud that statement does not mean that I have accepted it internally. So if you were to ask the actual metaphor of someone gun to your head, accept that 2 + 2 = 5, and your brain state has to change, otherwise you die, like Christianity actually works, to actually hold the belief versus saying it out loud the way Christianity, at least most forms I've ever seen, don't work, where if you just say, I believe in Jesus and God out loud, that will work even if you don't. That would be the actual parallel metaphor. Yours was nonsense.
Professing Christianity versus living Christianity, professing Christianity versus living, professing Christianity versus living Christianity are two different things, which even the Bible acknowledges. How dare you come up with a gun barrel scenario and suggest that at the point of a gun, at saying that 2 + 2 = 5 is the same thing as accepting and affirming that 2 + 2 = 5. That's a difference between professing and believing. It was just bullshit.
Just an analogy.
A terrible one.
It was just an analogy to kind of illustrate this notion that we're not always on the more secular utilitarian worldview. We're not always going to have affirming the truth in our best interest, because there may be conditions that telling or affirming or accepting a lie
Zen,
would
do you think
lead to better outcomes?
Zen, do you think Zen?
That also be
Zen,
I muted him.
Zen, do you think we're fucking too stupid to know that? Because what you called in to
I don't
suggest,
know that I'm being engaged with
shut up,
charitably.
shut
here,
up,
so.
shut up. What you called in to suggest was not that on occasion people might lie and profess a belief to their benefit. You called in to suggest that even if it's not true, being a Christian helps you. So why are you now dishonestly trying to argue for an analogy that does not fit your original point?
Well, it tends to reason that people that believe or act as if the Christian God is real, even if that is false, tend to have better outcomes societally, even on your view.
It's like you're not listening to what I say. So I'm going to mute you, and now you're going to listen to what I say.
He's done that several
You
times.
you called in to say that even if it's not true, people who live as Christian have better lives. And rather than get into the nitty gritty on the data, other than pointing out that there are problems with those studies, what I pointed out was that it's one thing to profess a belief and another thing to actually hold a belief. If there's a benefit to merely professing a belief, and there is, that's fine, but that has nothing to do with someone actually holding the belief. We're here talking about whether or not Christianity is true and whether or not people actually believe it. If you had called in and said, hey, Matt, hey, Jimmy, I know that there are people who can pretend to be a Christian and get a better life out of it, I would have said, well, duh, we all know that. I knew that when I was a Christian. I knew that when the Bible told me. I knew that before the Bible told me. Just like there are people who can pretend to be Christians and get elected to office because you are advocating for people doing something, whether it's true or not, which sets you and everybody you've convinced up to be lied to by the people who profess Christianity in order to get political power. I'm the one that's addressing the actual facts of reality. I'm the one who understands that there are benefits to pretending and that there are benefits to those who actually believe. Why on earth are you coming up with an analogy about saying there might be a circumstance where somebody's got a gun to your head where it would be in your best interest to do so? Of course there is. This ain't my first fucking rodeo. I care about whether or not it's true. But if you're not going to argue for the actual belief, but just say, you know, there might be a situation where it's in your best interest to say Jesus is Lord, you're right. If somebody's got a gun to my head, I'm going to say Jesus is Lord. I'm going to go back to all the shit that I knew when I used to believe this stuff for decades when I was studying to be a minister. I'm going to go back to all of that, and I'm going to preach like nobody's ever heard anybody preach before. Because now the situation is, do this or you're dead. In your daily life, there is no do this or profess Jesus or you're dead. That's not a part of your daily life. It's dishonest for you to suggest that there could be.
I have a direct question for Zen. We'll go ahead and unmute you, Zen, and I'm going to ask you a question. Hang on. I'm going to ask you a question, and then you can proceed with your general response. You keep talking, bringing back this things to outcomes. I assume this means that you familiarize yourself with more data than just like, say, the American-directed Mayo Clinic ones. That I'm kidding. I think that's exactly what you familiarize yourself with. But let's assume you familiarize yourself with more. Who has better outcomes? A Christian in a majority Muslim country or an atheist in a majority secular country?
Am I unmuted?
Yep. Can you answer that question?
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Well, I think the dialectic that I was generally
No. This is not answering the question. I asked a direct question. Did you hear it? Do you need me to repeat it? I can repeat it.
Am I going to be able to engage with the...
You can answer the question.
Probably not.
You're engaging.
Probably not if you're not going to answer the fucking questions. And when we do give you space, you argue dishonestly, forcing us to correct. So you can sit there and smugly think you've done something. Right now, you are the shittiest representative for Jesus Christ that I've spoken to this week.
So far,
and that's saying something. Will you answer Jimmy's question?
Do you need it repeated? That's fine if you do.
Yeah, go ahead and repeat it, please.
Who has a better outcome in similar studies to the ones that you were referring to? Who has a better outcome? A Christian in a majority Muslim country, or I'll broadly just say a majority non-Christian country, but let's go Muslim, just to make it simple. Who has better outcomes? A Christian
I don't know.
In a majority Muslim country, or a secular person, an atheist in a secular country?
Yeah, I'll just grant that I don't know the answer to that question.
Great, good. So I'm going to, I'm going to inform you because the answer is important. It's the atheist in the secular place. It isn't actually about that Christians specifically have better outcomes than atheists just because you can find a higher number of Christians than atheists because you are polling in places. Matt actually touched on this briefly when he was responding. where that's going to be, it is about the culture you are within. So yes, atheists, when subjected, even in a country with a secular government, to what we have here, Christian nationalism, have worse outcomes, generally, broadly speaking, to the country. However, when you also look at the happiness index of specific states,
Jimmy,
you can find
I need to
the
pause for a
opposite.
second.
Go ahead.
Jimmy, Zen, are you a friend of the Andrew that I just recently debated?
Yeah, I hope you and your husband have a wonderful night.
I wasn't
I
going
knew
to, the funny thing is I wasn't going to get rid of Zen. Someone had messaged me that, and I was just sitting there going like, I don't care who they're friends with. We don't put restrictions on who
that
calls
wasn't
in.
the thing.
Yeah. And so of course it was going to end in some kind of, Andrew, I would have kept going with you. If all you did was not be a fucking bigoted cunt like you are, Andrew, except for that cunts are useful and you aren't. You are just a piece of, you're calling in, pretending you have some intellectual thing. It failed at every attempt. And then just when exposed that you are in the group of bigots, the people who are actively trying, and then you actively tried to be the person that you are saying it'd be better for everyone else if you were like me and called in shows pretending to have an intellectual point and then ended your appearance by trying to hurt the feelings of people from a minority, from an oppressed minority. You're right. We should all aspire to be as good of a person as you, who's, by the way, spent most of their time saying, even if it's a delusion, we should accept it, sort of implying that you think it might be a delusion, sort of implying that you don't care. Actually, this is more explicit. You don't care whether it's true or not. You care whether it fits the utility of your life. And then, by the way, start criticizing other people's utilitarianism. The utility of your life is that it makes you feel good for being a bigot. As has been famously said, good people would do good things and bad people would do bad things. But for good people to do bad things, it takes religion. That's who the fuck you are, Zen. Go fuck yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow. I'm the executive producer of The Line. And at night, I sneak into Matt Dillahunty's house and I trade his cereals for other cereals. He comes out and he's like, wait, these are cereals I buy, but I swear I had different cereals. Anyway, would you like to support this channel or any specific show? You can do so over on Patreon or in channel memberships. There are special tiers for special shows or for the channel at large, and it helps us expand programming as well as hopefully very soon launch it in podcast form. Now, also, if you'd like to support, you can like, you can subscribe, you can leave a comment or a super thanks, which is a special highlighted comment that you pay for. Those are fun. And, screw the algorithm, go check out something over here, I suppose. Boy, I hope I can still put those icons there, because if I can't, this is going to look really stupid. I'm going to go buy some Cocoa Puffs and switch out Matt's mini wheats now.